Okay, so this is live, and I'm using the new OBS 29.1.2, and I'm going to be doing this for a short while because sometimes I'm wondering if people really actually think that I don't do my stuff. They never get to see this part, which is the what I call point, the moving point um, process of this modeling. They always see the process finished, rigged, shaded. But no, in reality, this takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of patience. As a matter of fact, patrons are going to get this model and also an environment, a sci-fi environment. I used to think that modeling sci-fi environments was really, mm, very hard. Actually, very time consuming. But everyone who's been in the industry for quite a while know that we have to rely on um, instances, basically, you know, um, and some other techniques, basically to repeat textures. Now, this is all traditional modeling and also traditional creation because right now, since we are in the AI era of creating stuff, of content creation, it is very likely that people some years from now will not even have to do this anymore. I think that AI could be uh, of a lot of benefit for 3D artists if someone could actually train like a drawing network, a how do you call this? Train the model for doing um, nets. This is a very old concept. I think it's a 1994 concept from Pixar, um, which was implemented on Shrek, on the first Shrek movie, and it had to do with doing surfaces using what we now call in Blender B splines. This was a concept further refined by the software 3D Code. This was around 2009, where you can actually draw lines on top of a mesh to retopologize, and then the mesh would just follow the loops automatically. So it's just draw, and the loops will be created automatically. So if we were using AI to do that, it would be much easier to do this kind of things. Like you can generate like the code over here, and then you can do some AI to solve the quad faces. I know there are some remeshers, sorry, that already do this. But the concept here is that you can draw yourself. You can draw the lines that are going to define your mesh. Like you get the base model, you draw the lines, then you have the AI to solve it, and also automatically UV unwrap it. Actually, if an AI will texturize your model, it doesn't even have to unwrap it. It will be more like an automatic process since each face, polygon face, would be parametric at that moment. So there are a lot of steps that can be taken so that AI can help us artists do these repetitive tasks. That's why I'm taking my time today to do this kind of workflow thing. So yeah, you can see that this takes time. Why don't I stream on Twitch? First of all, I only got to Twitch because there were other streamers already there in that platform. So in order for me to interact, I needed to create a Twitch account, and that was about it. I have not uploaded anything because Twitch changed its terms of use, and now if you really want to be a partner, what it's called now, you need to have some stream hours, some followers, and stuff like that. Whereas before, you can just stream, and that was it. And that was the only, like, really, the only requirement you had to fulfill to upload stuff. But ever since, and that was 2018, I think, um, I have not been able to upload anything. Hi, Hero Graphics. The artwork. Yeah, okay, so I prompted this to Stable Diffusion and also Niji Journey. Why do I do that? Because when I'm creating concepts, I really know how it is going to look. But since the AI is pre-trained, if we can say it that way, on very good anime models, I then grab the ideas that are really useful and then implement them on my own idea. That way, it is a 100% full organic creation. Like this jacket right here. It's this is a real model. This is how she should really look like. Okay, so this is what I'm aiming for. And as you can see, I have some part of the hair already. The boots. This is the base boot. The base boot was created, but it was really pretty simple. I didn't like it that much, so I added this rocket thing and also this exhausts rocket things because this is going to be a character for Unreal Engine. So what I'm looking for here is kind of like how do you call this? Air Knights vibe. But the shader is not going to be Air Knights. I was studying the Air Knight shading from their short movies and stuff, and it's a great shader. I guess you can use it with a principal shader and some diffuse combinations there. But I wanted to try another thing. I wanted to try two new things actually. The first one is a what I call the cloth, not really cloth, but do you know the wrinkles on the cloth? Yeah. Sometimes it's kind of tedious to create all of those wrinkles. And I thought, you know what, we should make them procedurally. So I advanced the shader, which I have not published nor release it or preview it in any other video. I advanced that shader and I wanted to use it in this model. The only issue is that if I do that, it will only be useful for Blender, not really for Unreal Engine. And my aim here with this model, this is going to be like the very first model I want to develop for Patreons for Unreal Engine. It's because on Monday, I'm sorry, I think it was Friday. Yeah, okay, today's Tuesday. Yeah, Monday morning, I got an email from someone at a really important position on 80 level. 80 level is like a very professional site for publishing tutorials, and I don't know if you've heard about them, but they do cover a lot of what's going on in the CG industry. So I got a mail from them, and then they said, you know what, we're opening up this experimental feature where you can upload your Unreal Engine 5 models. Do you have one? And then I told them, yes, I have such model, which is this one. And I'll be very interested in trying out your new feature. Like, it's going to be like a gallery thing. So my aim here is to complete this model, make it available for patrons, and obviously publish it in a place where you can absolutely check everything that this is going to do, including the real-time shaders, but this time in Unreal Engine. And there have been a lot of people who've asked me, are you going to be releasing any cel shading in Unreal Engine? And I've been reluctant to do that because I have always been a Unity artist. Um, I've developed my first video game, my very personal video game, um, way back in 2012. I've read the previous or the basic guides back at the time. I even printed out like books, entire book, um, to do the mobile version for the game demonstration that they had, and also the platformer. So yeah, I've been with Unity for around 10 plus years, and it is just recently that I got to know that nanites came into Unreal Engine, and that they have also, because of NVIDIA capability, NVIDIA cards, graphic cards, they increased the amount of real-time features for shaders, which is basically a nice way to say that they are computing light in a much efficient way, and that will include material bounces, material shading, volume shadings. I mean, Unreal Engine is it's just marvelous at this moment. I think Unity can do a lot of things Unreal can do, but I've always been, you know, waiting for the right time to jump in. So I discovered a couple of channels about Unreal Engine, which are really very popular channels, and I noticed that they are touching in a lot of areas that I have already been familiarized with, specifically with raycasting and stuff like that back from the Softimage era. So it's not difficult for me to grasp those concepts and apply them. And also, of course, MetaHuman, because I think that's the very next thing that I really want to fully jump on board. MetaHumans, custom MetaHumans, I think are going to be a really nice um, niche market. I don't know how you would call that, but I'm highly interested in that. I have a friend, by the way, which is doing a master's on Spain, in Europe, and he tells me that there are big plans for Unreal Engine 5, and I should take it from him because awesome themes are going to be released in the next month for Unreal Engine 5. So I'm taking my chances, and I'm starting to jump on board right now. So another thing, yeah, 80 level, high night rev. Yeah, another thing I have constantly been asked for is sculpting tutorials, and I have been taking my, you know, taking those suggestions with a pinch of salt, because at the moment there is a lot of amazing tools on Blender for sculpting and retopologizing. Of course, it's a important part of the process. I've been approached many times for from many other sites and people, and they always ask me, why do you prefer to do your models by moving your polygons? Isn't it easier to do the sculpt first and then, you know, do the retopo? And I always reply with the same thing, because if you timed both processes separately on separate machines, you will end up with the same thing, except there is one huge difference. After you retopo, alright, if you've sculpted, right? After you retopo, you need to go to the UV process of opening everything, which is an extra step. It is true that you're going to get 100% fidel surface, like one-to-one surface to what you were actually creating. But then you have to go to retopo, and after retopo, you have to think twice again and optimize your UV space so that you'll know how to, you know, you're going to get your bakes. Your baking process, it's going to affect how you UV topo, right? Whereas if you already have a really good model base and then you proceed to sculpt it, you already have retopo in, and you don't have to waste any time baking anything, because the how do you call this one? Whoops, sorry. The multi resolution is going to do that for you, and then it's just one long wait after you end everything for the bake. So if you have something like this jacket, for example, because I'm actually going to prove my point once I finish it. Maybe not today, but I'm going to try to explain this as clearly as possible. I'm finishing this jacket. I think we're 15 minutes into the stream, and I'm already done with the jacket. But then you're going to say, okay, but the jacket has more details, like the zippers, like the sewing around the some areas and stuff. Yeah, but imagine you had to do that with the sculpt, okay? Without having this, without having anything of this. You have to do it from scratch. You'll do your ball, you'll do your cylinders, you join them, remesh. After remesh, sculpting, the wrinkles and stuff. And as I have already mentioned, cool, new game driver ready. As I've already mentioned, by the time you're done with that, you need to start your UVs. And that's going to consume another time. Well, whereas if you're doing this already, obviously you need to do your UVs. But I guess it's going to depend on the actual preference of the artist. Because from here, like I mentioned before, I could just, multi-res 2 or 3 times, bake it, and then go take a coffee. It's going to take around, I don't know. I'm using a 3060 RTX card now. I had to upgrade the graphics card because my Titan X was giving me super slow times to bake. So I definitely needed to make the investment. And I know that now it's the 4060 RTX. It's coming out by a similar price, um, but I just wanted to have more GPU power. This one has 12 gigabytes, and I think the 4096, I'm sorry, the 4090 has around 11 or 16 gigs of VRAM. I don't remember. Yeah. Okay, so Night Rev, super high per realistic games, and they look so optimized too. But then again, those games are also use those games also use filters to get those effects. Yes, indeed, that's another very good feature that Unreal Engine has that has drawn me to do this specifically to be sent to Unreal Engine, and that those are the how do you call that? The screen effects, not screen effects. Oh gosh, I forget how they're called. Um, the real-time effects on screen, like color correction and all of those good stuff. And I really like that. It's not that I don't know how to use them. I've used them all of my life because I've been a color how do you call this? Color artist, I think it's the name. I've worked in Flame, Nuke, Lustry, those machines that only Hollywood has. I don't brag about those things because I don't really think that people need to do that. Like, if you know you're a color artist, you'll instantly recognize them by listening to how they speak about the software or the gamma or any of those attributes that images or movies usually have. Commercial work and stuff. So yeah. So you may notice that this is a low to mid poly, while the body, while the body is kind of a mid high poly. And this is because I intend to do some swapping at render times, or rather at the cinematic sequences, like her throwing out the jacket, or losing the jacket. I also want to rig this jacket so that it can fly. I'm not going to be using cloud simulation on on Unreal, which is, by the way, another great thing that they have. Native cloth simulation instead of plugins or add-ons like Unity. So yeah, I want this to be as light as possible because I'm planning more on the rigging side for this jacket to do the stunts that I have thought about this. But anyways, let's continue to do this. Right now I'm in sculpt mode. I'm going to set the, I think it's on brush. Yeah, here we go. Advanced mesh boundary. This is important. This does not come activated by default, so you should activate it by default. Um, and also the view normal. Yeah. Okay. So you can see how this does not affect or join past the original mesh boundary. And that's what we want. We want this to stop at the mesh boundary, whatever operation you're using with the sculpt mode. And I don't know if this is like the right size for this jacket because I really wanted the jacket to be very puffy for her. In the past, I've been commissioned to do characters with very puffy jackets. Yeah, those film grains and other things, color corrections, like I mentioned before, they do a lot of that in games as well. So that's why games have their looks, which are kind of like the identity look. Like The Last of Us have always, or at least that I've noticed, have always color graded their games to a greenish, dark greenish, and also orangey tones. Um, because they are complementary colors in the color wheel: green, orange, green, red stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to explain color theory right now. So the jacket needs to be puffy. I don't know how much of a puffy jacket she should need. Let's inflate this some more. Maybe like such. I was aiming for something like this. Yeah, but she looks not quite alright. And I think I know why. It is because we need to extend this armpit, and this is a challenge because the armpit on a big jacket like this one should come around here. But when your character is going to, you know, twist or bend this arm, the weights around that are going to have to affect this entire area. So yeah, now we have a puffy jacket on the armpit, and of course that's going to fall over here. Trying to do a better shape. Let me see if I can get it right here. So this is why I like to do this on stream, because that way you can see how long this process takes. Like last time, my patrons expected an entire full completed file, as well as but it happened so that I was doing this environment, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, a lot of planning, because you don't create stuff just because. You need to create stuff to, portray dimensions, to portray depth, and also you cannot do many intrinsic details like this because it will not look anime enough. So I need to blend just enough of what it would be a lot of details, and also a clean space to what we call breathe in visuals. Composition, visual composition. You need to breathe. The image needs to breathe. Okay? So yeah, doing two things in one single month is it's a lot of work. That's why I always encourage artists who are working on film features, um, because they get a lot of time. They get like 8 months for just a jacket, like 9 months for just a character. It's amazing. I mean, and I'm not even talking about the iterations for the character. I'm just talking about the final character. Sometimes riggers go up to 1 year just testing rigs and stuff like that. I don't know if they have switched times or shortened times, but up until the good golden era of 3D Max and Maya back in 2004, as well as Softimage, they used to give you a lot of months to work on your character on big studios, movie studios, is what I mean. Hey, Sleepy Mushroom, thank you for coming to the stream. We're not going to be very long here. I just wanted to demonstrate one principle, which is sculpting a jacket directly on a low mid polymesh and then using that as a bake image to sport wrinkles. Although the fun part would be if you could see me set up the wrinkle shader, which I mentioned I have not shown anybody because I'm still experimenting with some things, and using a wrinkle shader here would be really useful. Okay, see, this is what I was telling you about. So the armpit for a big jacket cannot be around the normal or regular, human body. The armpit is somewhere around here. And if you're going to rig this later on, you're going to have problems. Why? Because the jacket itself moves the armpit way out here. Okay? But the body itself will move the armpit over here. So we need to translate some weights from this arm into this section of the jacket, as well as this rib area into the jacket itself. I don't know why people hate to do weights. If you really work on your character like this, you only have a certain amount of vertices to work on. And that's much better than working on something that is not optimized after you retopo from sculpt. I'm not saying that's bad. I only saying that there are artists that prefer to do this first and then retopo or sculpt later. I am in such group because I know people who can jump directly into Blender and sculpt this thing in a 1, 2, 3 very fast situation. Like they put cylinders, they would put grids, and they would finish the jacket pretty fast. But I am mentioning I don't like that on my particular case because I prefer to do this having the poly count in mind and also having the orientation for this. Now if we were to do this on 3D code, which by the way I'm seriously thinking I should be going back to 3D code because I miss a lot of features from that software that I thought Blender could be replacing those workflows with. But in the end, I found out that I'm really hurting my workflow, my artist workflow, because I'm limiting myself. Instead of using the best of the tools or the best of the worlds, of the two worlds, limiting myself into some restrictions that Blender has. Speaking about restrictions, I don't know if you already saw, but Grease Pencil 4, Grease Pencil, they call it Refactor 3. In Grease Pencil 4, it's coming up with pretty nifty updates. And I wanted to mention that because Blender 4, it's going to probably be my next preferred Blender version. Right now I'm working with 3.5. I have 3.6 installed, but I am definitely going to start working and making tutorials with Blender 4. That way, my tutorials can last a little bit longer on the YouTube search, because sometimes I seek for tutorials about a certain thing, for example geometry nodes on Blender 3.2, and for example, fireworks, geometry nodes, but they are from Blender 3.2, which of course all of those nodes are deprecated now. As a matter of fact, I wanted to give you a friendly advice, and that is ditch or move to a folder which is called, which you should call actually, deprecated geometry nodes 3.2. Because at this moment, almost 60% of all of the nodes that originally shipped in Blender 3.2 have switched properties, have switched names, have switched functions. 62%. That's a lot in less than 1 year and a half. Which is kind of great if you actually want to move forward fast, because obviously they have been optimized. I mean, geometry nodes, it's the bomb. It's great. Whatever things we couldn't do the previous year, right now, for example, we have simulation nodes, and it is working just amazingly. And I have heard and read other comments from other artists that say that Blender is advancing too fast. That they don't have time to catch on, either for the tutorials that everyone should be like looking up to understand the concepts, or to apply the new functions that they get in the new releases. And I get it. Like, you don't have the time sometimes if you come from work. Like, if Blender is not your main income source for working on game dev or working on AR or any other game development studio thing. I get it. After 1 day of work, you come and then you find out a new version is released. Nodes are deprecated. Some names on the UI have been changed. Some new functions now work with different shortcuts. I mean, it is a real nightmare if you spend too much time away from Blender. Let's say a couple of months, and then you come back and then you find out that the latest features, are really cool and stuff, but you need to learn from scratch. Um, And on the same note, I recently got a book, a very interesting book by Paolo Campora, I think is his name. He's a Blender add-on developer, and he wrote a coding book for Blender. And he kindly sent me the book, and I'm reading it, and gosh, I'm understanding a lot of things about the AIP, the Blender development code for add-ons using Python, and he really explains how things should work if you learn how to code. And that's amazing because you really need to have uh, an understanding from the ground up on what kind of things Blender focuses when you're working in the interface, such as the RNA, um, Python, full path, or let me just show you. How could I? Maybe here? Yeah. Down there is Python BPY, sorry, .ops screen animation play. That's the object called for this play button, and you can use that in your add-on as well as many other functions. The thing is, and my point is, sorry, that Paolo Campora's book is just amazing. If you're an artist who wants to develop plugin solutions or even script your own stuff automatically in Blender, like to execute automatically is what I mean, you should definitely give a read to that book. I'm going to leave the link after I finish the stream, and it is a great book if you are considering to become more technical, some more technical artist. As a matter of fact, I think technical artists are always in demand. You know, like that's a very demand on demand job. Like artists who can model, they are great. Like it's great. Like artists that can sculpt, they are also great, sought in studios. But the most requested, or I should actually say, the most highly paid artists in a studio are the technical artists. Those are the ones coding the tools. Those are the ones doing the hard lifting for some automatic functions and automatic tools on the characters, if they are to be created for a video game and such, or even a movie like the Spider Verse. Have you seen how many technical achievements that the last Spider movie made? Like, it has a lot of awards about that. The Arcane show, the one from the Riot franchise, um, by Studio Fortiche, you know, they also achieved a lot of technical things. And I was watching this, we can say, documentary, and one of the interviewers asked one of the artists, like, what kind of shader do you use to do this kind of nice lightning and stuff? And then she just replied, we just paint. We don't use any special shader, we just paint. I want to add to that. Because it is true, but it's not the entire truth. After you shade and you create the texture, you are going to handle it to the surface artist, which is basically someone who is in charge of making sure that all of the shaders in the scene match up to whatever kind of lighting setup they're going to do in Nuke. Okay, in this particular case, speaking about Arcane, because I have not seen anyone talk about this, and I don't know how it is so mystic for everyone when Arcane is just a straight up ahead production, in a sense, if you obviously know your tools. It is made out of passes, different passes. Even they sometimes show some screens where you can see different passes being composed in Nuke. And what they do is to output a shader in different, we could call it light situations, light setups. And from there, they have what they call, or what it is called, sorry, a script. Whenever you create a scene setup in Nuke, you call that a script, which is basically a bunch of nodes tied all together, automatically displayed whenever you load up we're going to call it the preset for that scene. So let's say that you're always using I don't know, like, I remember this specific part when Vi and the other girl, I forget how her name is, go to downtown, no, sorry, underground, and everything is like in a greenish tint and stuff like that, and it looks really like really toxic and stuff. Well, in the documentary that I'm telling you about, that I think it's got a lot of views on YouTube, they show just a glimpse of that scene, and they mention it is actually the part where they mention that they use 2D planes. If you watch that closely, watch the Nuke screen they have. The Nuke, I'm talking about the software, by the way. And then you can see that they have the names for the nodes. The nodes have specific names, and those are called, as I mentioned before, scripts. So Nuke loads them up, and that's how they match everything to one single sequence with the same colors and stuff. Of course, after that they get graded, which is the process to put more colors to it, or actually match more colors, neutrals and stuff. And finally they compose the scene. And why am I mentioning this? Because sometimes people want to get immediate results without doing composition. Composition, or a compositing artist actually, It's a very important part in this entire process for creating stuff, um, for stylizing as well. As a matter of fact, I follow a lot of Japanese compositors. My goodness, do these guy do these guys know how to do their job? Like, I have learned a lot. Just last week, I just saw this guy who added grain, and it's not a big mystery that whenever you add grain to a movie or short production that you're doing, it looks like film, right? But he spoke about the channels that should get the grain, and then it hit me, and then I said, you know what, we can do that on Blender. We can actually go into, I don't know, let's say the red channel, noise it up some more, and then obviously you're going to get some contrasty areas on the greens, on the blues. But graining a channel was something that I had never considered. When I always grain, I always look for stock grain like Kodak film, Fujifilm, and then I know that that looks right because it's got a look to it. It even got a frequency. When you're compositor for a long time, you can always see noise, grain, stuff like that happen on screen. It's not like anyone can perceive it, but you do this job so much that you already know what kind of presets or what kind of grain the movie has. And I'm not talking of just about anime, I'm talking about any movie. And then you say, okay, so that's how they did it, and it looks good, or looks bad actually. One of the movies where you can actually see film grain like really jump at you is the Schindler's List and Dunkirk. Those are two very old veteran kind of movie things about the war and stuff, because grain is actually going to convey you about the uneasiness of war. So grain is also kind of like a visual language. That's why when you're applying grain into your video game, like The Last of Us, like when they go into the underground tunnels and stuff, you get an uneasy feeling, and that's what the goal or purpose for the grain in the movies intends to, like give you some nostalgic sentiment or uneasy, like unwavering moment and stuff like that. Everything adds up. Just 2 days ago, someone on Twitter, was complaining because he wanted to specifically create this very stylish look from an anime show, and he had modeled, or I don't know where if he got it from a download or anything like that, but he really got to the point where the entire scene was already created, and it was perfect, 1 to 1 compared to the anime. But then he said, I don't know why I cannot get the anime look on this. So I look at his model, and it was very well planned. Everything was on spot. Everything was great. Everything was where it should be. But he was using clean, very clean, sharp shaders. And of course, if you watch anime, you will notice that all of the background generally have watercolors or this kind of grainy aspect. You may not notice, but it is true. Whenever you create a background, try to, render out a sequence and then use a post-production software like After Effects, Nuke, or even Blender, the compositor, and add grain to it. Add grain to the background, to your anime background. And start adding grain to the red channel first, if you can isolate channels as well. Start adding grain to the red channel first, then to the blue one, and finally for the green, for the highlights and stuff. And then you will notice that it's going to look more it's going to present more imperfections is what I mean. When you draw your backgrounds, like, let me see, like this, I'm not planning to use this like straight ahead, because obviously no one can draw straight lines like this. So you need to distort this, and there is a distortion lens filter in the real-time compositor. Not only that, but I'm also going to add some grain and other C depth stuff. But I'm going to try to composite this entire thing in two phases. Phase 1 is everything created for the Blender real-time anime compositor. And phase 2 is sending this to Unreal Engine, match it up to what I have on Blender, and then, go up from there. Like adding fog, adding light effects. Um, but yeah, that's the main goal with this environment. Okay, so I think we're over the hour, and I think I should be going now. Hello, Mr. Makerbur Monster. Hello, Mr. Sleepy Mushroom. Where did you get this grand blue keyframes? Oh my goodness gracious. Gosh. I'm sorry. Guys, I'm so sorry. I forgot to transition. I have been modeling for an hour now. See this? That's why I do this. Gosh, this is so. I'm so ashamed. This is why I do this stream, so I can, you um, get my training back. Sorry, guys. Oh gosh, you missed the entire thing. I was modeling while I was talking. I'm sorry. This was not meant to stay on the Grand Blue Fantasy. Oh gosh. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so let's continue. I'm sorry that this is going to be very short now because I already completed the jacket. Gosh. I'm so sorry. I wasn't expecting not to transmit everything. I thought it was, going live. Okay, so let's just quickly recap. Someone asked me where I have gotten the concept for this character. This character, as I mentioned before, was created by Stable Diffusion and also Niji Journey, which is the Japanese version for Midjourney. And what I was mentioning before is that I'm very interested in the shape of the jacket. Right now we are done, but before starting this stream, I only had the top part of the jacket plus the sleeves. And I was mentioning that the sleeves in this model will have to go all the way out here instead of staying in under the armpit directly, because big jackets tend to have, their armpits all the way down here. So whenever I'm going to rig this, the weight from the arm are going to be propagated to the jacket. This is something that I have already shown with models like the Ghislaine model that I have previously done, and there's a tutorial about that in my channel, so check it out. How to rig jacket, bone jackets, and also hair, really complex anime hair. I will publish in the next days one of the methods, one of the many methods I have to do anime hair. Specifically, in this season, I'm aiming for more chaos. Like, all of our anime models in 3D have this very clean and very, if we can say it that way, very order hair. But I was looking a way to do this in some kind of method, and I found it. I want to publish that because I really think that splaying hair tips in a model, either in anime or real life model, it's a great thing to do. In the past, I've published the Kuribo tutorial for hair. I don't think anyone is even interested in that because I have not received any further comments for that, and I was really hoping that people would get interest on that topic, but it seems that not many people like that topic, that hair topic. So I did not upload it, the rest of it. So that's why sometimes I get asked, why do I put tutorials under a paywall? It's not that I've put them on a paywall, it's that I already have recorded the material I have already published some sort of teaser on YouTube. Nobody comments it. Nobody does any comments. Nobody does any suggestion. Nobody does any questions. So I just think to myself, it's not worth to publish on YouTube if nobody's gonna watch it. So I am just better editing it and putting it on Gumroad. So if anyone is really ever interested in that, they're going to look for that, and it's going to find it. Just one out of I don't know how many thousands of people looking for that kind of tutorial. So you know, electricity. Everyone has to pay electricity bills, and so do I. So yeah, that's why I do it. Whenever no one shows interest, and that's what happened actually with the Guilty Gear shaders. At first, there were like I don't know, like 1,000 watch for the video for the preview video that I did, and then I thought, you know what, this is not going to hit anyone. Like it's not going to reach anyone. Sorry, I used the wrong term. It's not going to use. It's not going to be of use for anybody. I just might as well publish it on Gumroad, so that if anyone is looking for this content, they're going to find it on Gumroad, because it's a really good searcher and stuff. And yeah, that's how later on Wing Fox approached to me and said, you know what, we really like your content and we want to do a part 2, part 3, part 4 and stuff. So they made me sign a contract, and that's everything else is just history as you know it. And that's why I have not released Fixie for Patreons, because Fixie is part of the original contract that said, to work with just with Wingfox. Awesome light modeling. Oh yeah, thank you, Nihara Frun Arts. Yeah, I'm just so sorry that I spent the past 40 minutes talking about really important things about the CG industry, and you only watched um, some drawings that were like kind of like sliders, images here, slide images. Whoops, image sliders. I don't know, however you call that. And yeah, you totally missed how I was creating this jacket, because I see that a lot of people like to do jackets for their characters, and I thought, you know what, it might be a good idea to do this live. But thank you very much for joining the stream right now, because I'm actually trying to learn, or rather take practice on streaming. A lot of people ask me, why don't you stream on Twitch, and I've already stated previously in this video that it is because Twitch does not allow me to upload videos like before. When I joined Twitch back in 2018, Twitch allowed to live stream and also to upload videos. But now, if you don't have certain amount of followers and other requirements, then you're not allowed to upload videos, and I really don't like that. Takes too much effort, and I already have a channel dedicated on YouTube, so I mean, why not? I can stream on YouTube any day of the week and not have to worry about any other requirements. But okay, so for the last 15 minutes, let's just quickly finish this. I'm going to tell you two important things. Number one, hard edges. I don't. Okay, the purpose of this model is to be taken to Unreal Engine 5. Many people in the course, in the Wingfox course, in the Guilty Gear course, and in other videos have asked me, Mr. Schiller, it is really difficult for me to learn normal editing. So I'm going to take this opportunity to show you how easy it is once you understand the basics. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to be drawing this like this. So let's just imagine for a second that you have a light source right here. Okay, so this is your spot, your light source. It's going to beam light this way. Okay, So naturally, the shadow is going to be cast back here, right? So we already know I'm going to be just working with this area for now. So we know that all of this area is going to be dark, right? But what if you like move over here and have another spot right here, and then have that spot cast some light over here? What's going to happen is that the shadow that you used to have from this side, okay, coming from this spotlight, is going to be canceled, right? Or actually, it's going to be added. So you're going to have a shadow casted in this area and a shadow casted coming from this other area into this place. So you will see all of this in shadow. In anime, we cannot allow the computer to calculate where the light source is for us. We cannot do that. Why? That's why it's called stylized shading, because you have the control over light, you have the control over the shadow. So I'm going to do this pretty quickly. Whoops. Oh, come on. Here we go. I'm going to be adding just a simple shader, nothing fancy. And let's just call it hood. This is the hood shader. I really want to stay, but right now I'm going to have to go because dinner is ready, so I'm really hungry. Diffuse BSDF. This is going to be a natural. Let me just switch to this, and also to use a light. I want to use maybe a sun. Let's use a sun first. Okay, so you missed where the light is coming. So I have my light coming from this side. So obviously I want to have shadows be cast on this other side, right? And also, you know what? No, let's just work right now as it is. So if I switch this, my jacket is going to change colors, okay? Very good. We want a dark jacket. Look at her. She's looking great. Okay, we want a gray jacket. And as you can see, the shadows, oh, sorry. Okay, that's full light. The shadows, whoops, let me just get rid of the wireframe. The shadows, whoops, shade smooth, sorry. I do so many steps, I already forget how to do this. Step by step, anyway. So you can see the shadow is being casted here, and it appears here. We don't want that. We want to receive full light, full front light from this light source. Let me get it closer so I can manipulate it later. From this side, and it will cast shadows only on this region. This region, which should be the side, should receive light. So let's just do that. I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm not going to do it into everything about this jacket. I'm just going to do it on this side, okay? So bear with me. Shift D, let's just hide this one, let's edit it this one, and let's get this out. Let's take this out. 1, 2, 3. Please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them right now in the chat, because I'm reading the chat. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to use this right there. Press 3 to go to face mode, press P to separate, enter, and now I have the hoodie. This is just the part that I'm interested in. I'm going to press N, and then I'm going to come here into the BNPR normal editor, which is an add-on that you should have, which is done by the Blender community. And where is it? Okay, here we go. Normal, which is called AB normal. Okay, this add-on, you should look for it on Google. It is created by Cody Winchester, whose nickname is Cody Winch. He's a very amazing artist. Should follow him as well. And get the BNPR normal editing tools, AB normal. That's the name of the plugin. So this is the plugin. And if I start the normal editor, okay, let me just cancel the changes. Let me just open this entire thing, and let me just set up this because you really need to see it. Hood NPR. Okay, let's finish this. Shift A, and let's go to ramp, a color ramp, and I'm going to drag this and let go, and I'll get this list. I'm going to type shader to RGB. This important node has a really important history on 2.8. I will not tell you about that right now because I'm switching the color ramping to constant, and from there we're going to cast this to a color that can be identified for the hoodie, and I'm going to use this with a mix color. So the mix node now has float for numbers, but colors are available as well. I'm going to be using this as the factor threshold, and from there I'm going to connect to an emission shader, and finally Control Shift click the emission, and then it will automatically plug in into surface. So now I need to make a difference between the light parts of the jacket and the dark part of the jacket, so that way we'll know where the light hits. Finally, I'm going to address the light. I'm going to use 5, and from there I'm going to get this off, and I'm going to try to figure why my light is not casting anything here. Diffuse, oops, sorry, whoops, there we go. I'm going to use pure white. Why? Because I want to receive the light and then also identify it. Where is the light coming from? So the color ramp is in charge of hard cutting, we can say it that way, the light difference between the shadow and the light part. That's why we're using the factor to decide which part is which. So in this case, I want to make this light and this is going to be dark. That way it's working correctly. Now if you can see, my light is pointing this way, but we mentioned that even in the case that we want to switch the light in this way, the hoodie is going to react to how it was naturally modeled. But we don't want that. What we want is to have the light always come from the, I hope you are all seeing this. Yeah. Okay, it's live. Sorry, I'm just making sure that this is working correctly. So okay, let's close this very big screen. Mr. Schiller, I see this cascading things. It's really ugly, nasty. Can we fix that? Yeah, sure. This is what I always tell you to do, to come here into the settings for the render engine Eevee, activate, well in this case we're going to activate bloom by default, but then down here where it says shadows, you have the cube size of 512 and the cascade size of 1024. I tend to lower this to 256, and then the cascade is kind of going away, and then get this off, soft shadows, and the cube size make it very small. Let's try 128. I think 128 it's working fine. You can also go to 4096, so that way you can get softer and stuff like that if you prefer. It really depends on your model. In my case, since right now I have a very low, or not actually low, but a very basic hoodie, okay, so we're going to edit the normals with. So I'm going to go into, whoops, sorry, let me apply the mirror. This is important, please, for always remember to apply your modifiers. Save an editable version, and then go and save another version so that you can edit your normals without issues. So I'm going to go into the side view. I'm going to first identify which axis I want to turn my normals into, and in this case I want to go away from the Y axis, so that would be negative Y. So with everything selected here, I'm going to come into this panel, and then I'm going to click on align all of these normal axes into the minus Y. So right now everything is pointing towards the minus Y axis. So let me just show you because probably, whoops, no, this is not correct. See that? That's not correct. So what about minus x? No. Plus x? No. Minus y? Okay, we have a problem right now. And I can see what's going on. Let's cancel the changes. Let's go to items. And as you can see, my rotation has not been zeroed out. Also, my scale is wrong. My location, well, is having a problem as well. So let's just Control A, apply scale. So that way we can put this in a regular scale. Control A again, rotation. That will zero out all of my rotations. Control A one more time, and then we're going to use probably location as well. Alright, so now let's go into edit mode. Press 1 for the filter to select vertices. Press 3 on the numpad, and now let's go back into the BNPR AB normal. Alright, so now we can see our stuff. Let's align everything to minus y. You can see it right there. Those are the screen axes. Okay, so we have everything pointing towards our light. Now let's confirm our changes. Now every part of my hoodie will not present a shadow, even though the light is being cast. And as you can see, only the real 90 degrees difference from those normals are going to be in shadow. So if I move this away, as you can see, nothing is lit. Let's undo that. And I specifically want this line to always be in a shadow. Okay, always be in a shadow. So let's just do that. I'm going to grab all of this. And I'm going to grab all of these parts right here, down here, and also most likely all the way down here as well. Oops. Sorry. Okay, right there. Transparency, here we go. So all of these parts down here, I always want them to be on shadow. So what am I going to do? I want to edit the normals again, and since everything is looking towards my light, now I want everything to turn away from that light. So I'm going to press positive Y, okay? So I'm going to go that way towards my right, which is the positive Y. So everything that I have selected, I'm going to press positive Y. So they are going to turn away from the light. And then I'm going to confirm my changes. I'm going to go back into full render view, and as you can see, we now have this entire section always in shadow. Now this is just one way to define the shadow area from any kind of model mesh. And as you can see, this is a very low polygonal mesh. But what happens if I use subdivision surface? Let's go here into the modifier and apply subdivision surface. Let's just scale this just a little bit. Okay, so then you can see that the area has been remodeled in this case because we have a lot more polygons. But what if we want to preserve the normal editing faces that we already did? You know, like this part is pointing towards the light and this part back here is pointing away from the light. That's very easy. If you come here into the modifier section and then open up the subdivision modifier, you will see down here in advanced that you have this option, which is use custom normals. I think Cody Winch also implemented this into the subdivision surface, so we owe him a big time for that. And as you can see, now the normals have been already placed back as they were before. So if you prefer this, you can leave it right there. Or if you prefer your normals, you can bring them back using the custom normals. Now please remember that the levels on the viewport is just 1, but the levels on the render is 2. So you should always make sure that what you see on your viewport is going to be exactly the same thing that you're going to see at render time, so that you will get no surprises. And that's it. That's how you can manipulate always to have a shadow area no matter how the light hits. See that? and that's what we aim. Now you will notice that the face of this character already has edited normals, and that's why we can see the what it's called the Rembrandt triangle plus other features. Now, Mr. Schiller, whenever I move my light, I always tend to see this kind of ugly shading artifacts. Is there anything that we can do about it? No, my friend. Um, Lights in cell shading games are always meant to be from one direction. So you will always have one vector, what it's called the vector light, because it's going to give you the direction as how the face should always be lit in case you want to use the normal editing approach. You can also combine different methods such as the normal editing, the vertex, shading color, the ambient occlusion, and other shading things to define your aspect in the character. But I intend to cover all of that once we get to the Unreal Engine part. So right now, thank you very much for joining me. If you have any questions about this, please don't forget to ask in the comment section below. Thank you so much. I would like to do longer streams. I'm sorry, and I really do apologize that the very first 40 minutes have been only a sliding image show, but now you can see this entire setup, so it's well worth the while. So thank you so much and have a great, amazing